Welcome to the Mindful Return podcast. I'm Kelly Tuttle, a retired neurology nurse practitioner and brain injury survivor. Together, we'll explore practical tools and real stories to help you rebuild focus, confidence, and a meaningful life after a brain injury. Hello and welcome back to the Mindful Return podcast. In this episode, we are going to talk about brain injury symptoms. Early into my recovery, I couldn't listen to music because it would give me headaches, make me irritable and grumpy and tired. I wasn't aware at the time that I was suffering from sound sensitivity, a common brain injury symptom. I was later diagnosed with sound sensitivity by a behavioral neurologist and a behavioral optometrist. I learned that sound sensitivity was the symptom that was behind the aggravating of my other brain injury symptoms of headache, fatigue, irritability, difficulty with focus and attention, balance, and feeling overwhelmed. Once I narrowed on the right symptom, I was able to promote my brain's performance by providing an external filter, utilizing noise canceling headphones. And doing that helped manage my brain injury symptoms better. I had decreased intensity in my headaches. I had a little bit more energy at the end of the day. I had improved focus, attention, and balance and mood, and I had less feelings of overwhelmed while working in a open workspace and being out in the public. So I share this story because I want to emphasize how important it is to understand your brain injury symptoms so that you can describe them to your providers and your doctors so that you can get the right treatment and use the right tools to help manage your symptoms. So there are several resources and tools you can use to discover your brain injury symptoms. And the first one is journaling your symptoms. Journaling your symptoms will help you remember your symptoms, monitor them if they're getting better or worse, and note any aggravating environmental stimuli or things that make the symptoms worse and what makes the symptoms better. And if you have any troubles with starting your journal, check out my journal that I've created. It's available on Amazon. It's called My Brain Injury Journal, and it'll help you get started on journaling your brain injury symptoms. The other thing that I found helpful while I was recovering and trying to figure out what was going on with me was to review common symptom lists from brain injury recovery resources. And what I would do is I would go through their list of common brain injury symptoms, and then I would write them anything that sounded like me in my journal. The other reason for reviewing other brain injury symptom resources is it helps put words of what you're feeling. It helps put what you're feeling into words. And it reminds you of symptoms maybe that you have forgotten you had because other symptoms are more worse and more overwhelming for you. It'll help you learn about symptoms you were not aware of. That kind of was a sense of something, but you just weren't able to put it into a tangible thought and then convert it into words. So what resources are there that you can find these symptoms? Well, of course, I'm going to shamelessly plug my book, After the Crash, How to Keep Your Job and Stay in School and Live Life After a Brain Injury, which is also on Audible. And I also have an online program on my website that goes through symptoms, and it's called The Road to Recovery. And hopefully you are subscribed to my free Substack called The Mindful Return, where I do talk about symptoms and symptom management. Other resources are the CDC website. There is a website, brainline.org, brainline.org, which is really useful. The website Brain Injury Association of America, and they are BIAUSA.org. Another website is Headway, the Brain Injury Association out of the UK. And then other brain injury books or audiobooks that you can find at your library or your favorite bookstore are helpful. And then attending support groups with other brain injury survivors. They'll share their symptoms and you'll see if you guys share similar symptoms. So when you have your symptom list, take your journal with the list of your symptoms to your doctor and specialist. And if you need additional help, you can go to my website and download my free stressless medical sheet, which helps you write your symptoms and note the aggravating symptoms, aggravating things that make your symptoms worse, anything that makes it better, treatment you've had in the past that worked or didn't work. That form will help you guide quickly and concisely how to communicate your symptoms to your doctors and your specialists. Because as we know, these visits with these doctors and specialists can be limited in time, sometimes only 10 minutes of their time. So you really want to be super concise with the information that you give them, and this form will help you do that. So check my website out and download that for free. And then over time, you'll want to continue to monitor your symptoms. Check your symptoms list every 3 months for the first 6 months, and then every 6 months for the first year. And if your recovery continues, then every year. Now, initially, early in recovery, symptoms can worsen over time. And this is because of the organic changes in the brain and the increase in neural inflammation, the healing processes, changes in energy demands of the healing, and the loss of function of a mitochondria, which is an organelle inside the brain cell that produces energy chemicals. And when you lose brain cells because they've died due to the damage, then you have less powerhouses for energy. And so you have this change in energy output and change or less energy output and an increased demand of energy needed by the brain because it is trying to clear out the mess, the debris, the free radicals, and start rebuilding new connections. And with that, you will have neurofatigue and less energy to power your normal brain processes. And so your symptoms will seem to initially, but over time, as healing occurs, your symptoms should diminish. And when you know your symptoms and you're able to provide support tools and strategies to help your brain deal with external environmental distractions and so forth and stimuli, then you'll help protect your brain and save it for the healing process. And with an increase in healing, you'll have an increase in energy, and therefore you'll be able to feel better and see an improvement in your brain processing. Symptoms can also hide under other symptoms. You may see your symptoms change as you heal. So for instance, if you have a really bad whiplash or headache or a shoulder dislocation or a fractured leg, that pain will be distracting and it will cover up other brain injury symptoms such as cognitive brain injury symptoms, difficulty with planning, motivation, project management, time management. They'll kind of hide under those more demanding symptoms of pain. And usually when you have an injury, you're also recovering at home. And it's when you re-enter into your workspace that the other cognitive symptoms and symptoms of sound sensitivity or light sensitivity will rear their ugly head because you're at home, you can control the lighting, the noise, if you're lying down or if you're sitting up, those kinds of things to help with your recovery. So that change in your environment, in your activity, can then uncover unknown brain injury symptoms that we're able to hide under your symptoms of pain. The brain is complicated. And therefore, you shouldn't expect to only see one specialist, that you'll actually be seen by a team of specialists to help you with your symptoms. There are multiple types of brain specialists. There are psychiatrists, psychologists, physical medicine and rehab doctors, speech therapists, and neurotherapists, just to name a few. Knowing your symptoms and communicating them effectively to your provider will help you get to the right specialist and get the right care for that symptom. If a specialist or a treatment that they recommend does not work, let that your referring doctor know so that they can reevaluate what you need to treat the symptom. Everyone's brain reacts differently to an assault. And so your brain injury symptoms and your recovery will be unique as your personality. Now I'd like to list some common brain injury symptoms. So if you have a piece of paper and pen, and grab them now. Hit pause and grab them and take notes. Some common brain injury symptoms follow under different kind of categories. So I'm going to start off with behavior and personality changes. So these symptoms can include impulsivity, mood swings, anxiety, depression, and bursts of anger. You can have vision symptoms such as double vision, blurred vision, balance problems, poor screen tolerance, light sensitivity, difficulty reading, dizziness, and nausea. Hearing symptoms can be sound sensitivity, hearing loss, vertigo, difficulty following conversations in a busy environment, ringing in the ear, trouble with focus while working in an open workspace. Speech symptoms could be difficulty finding words, saying words, slurring words, and blending words. Dizziness and nausea, which can affect your ability to drive, exercise, and increase your risk for falls. Dizziness can also cause a symptom of unable to tolerate screens, feeling unstable on your feet, and walking into objects. Headaches, another brain injury symptom. Fatigue, neurofatigue, and cognitive difficulties with time management, planning, organizing, motivation, initiation, prioritizing, managing of bills, finances, and projects, difficulty with memory, speech, writing, reading, and math. So if once you have your list of your brain injury symptoms, please check out my episode on the specialist you could possibly see to help you with those symptoms, and talk to your doctor to see which specialist or therapist is the best referral for you. I hope that this episode helps you understand your brain injury symptoms better. Take care, get better, get stronger. You've been listening to the Mindful Return podcast with me, Kelly Tuttle. Subscribe wherever you listen and head to kellytuttle.org for brain injury recovery tools, free resources, and inspiration to help you return to work with confidence and hope.